Hi, everybody. Welcome to our weekly podcast, The Locker Room, where we shine a light on our kids in the Bayou region. Want you to go subscribe and like, as it will give you notifications of this as we drop every Monday. Hope you enjoy the show. Again, it's all in an effort to make sure we take care of our kids in the local area. I am Stan Gravois. He is Dustin Robichaud, who puts this all together. He takes it upstairs, and when I say upstairs, he works in the marketing department here, and he puts it together. But you are feeling a little under the weather.
Yes, Stan. I feel.
Well, here we go. Get through it. Make sure you get this podcast together so that we have it out. We don't want to miss. I don't think we've missed a Monday since we've started all of this.
We have not, and we had our 20th episode last week.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, this is our 21st episode.
I didn't realize that. I've heard a lot of places that when you're doing podcasts like this, it takes a full year to sort of grab traction and, get things going. And I do feel like it's a easy endeavor when you have sort of a passion to make sure that the kids in the area are given their due props, so to speak. So it's a lot of fun. And I appreciate very much that you take all of this footage. What we do with Casey, when we have Casey on, you take all of that, put it together in some kind of chaotic fashion so that we could put it out each week. Hardest part of doing it? Time allotments?
Yes, trying to find the time because I have a lot of things on my plate. Specifically this week, actually.
Yeah, well, it all revolves around working at the hospital here.
Yes.
And of course, for you folks who may not have any background on me, it's just a situation where I was in education for 30 years and enjoyed my coaching. But in the last, say, 10 years, I've had the opportunity here at Terrebonne General to kind of shed the light on some of the kids and the programs and the coaches in the area, and we certainly enjoy doing that. And this is kind of a labor of love, too. Whenever there is a kid in the area who signs to play at the next level, I really feel great about it. Now, listen, there are a lot more opportunities probably today than there were 50 years ago for kids to play at the next level because you have a lot more junior colleges in the area that will accept kids to play the sports. You have a lot more NAIA schools, which is one we're going to talk about in just a little while. But it's so fun because these kids have an opportunity to further their education. And we have a young lady from right here in Houma who is going to do that. Lola Downer, who is a soccer player from Vanderbilt Catholic, is going to be playing at Millsaps. And what's so nice about this, Lola has been sort of part of the Terrebonne General family. She's been working out at our performance training center since she was a pup. Pardon the pun, related to Vanderbilt Catholic, but she's been working out there for a long time. As a matter of fact, the picture you're seeing right now on the left side of her is Stephen Worslow. On the right side is Hayden White, and they both have trained Lola as she has come up. Terrific soccer player at Vanderbilt Catholic, where they're good every year, and now she's playing at Millsaps in Mississippi, which is an NAIA school, a very, very good school, very prestigious school when it comes to academics. So congratulations to Lola. We always like sharing those stories, and we hope she does well, especially that she's been sort of part of our family here at Terrebonne General for such a long time. Go Lola. Little change of pace. This is a little different. You might enjoy this one. You're a music guy. We switched to band just a little bit before we get into baseball, softball, and track and field. We talked about how good Central Lafourche's band was over in the fall, whenever they were winning all of these marching festivals. Well, the Lafourche Parish Indoor All-Star Percussion Group must be very, very good too, because they went to the Louisiana, Mississippi Percussion Circuit Championships this past weekend, and they wiped it out. They won the gold standard, which is the top, which is the best. They were also voted as fan favorite. And they were led by a lot of those percussionists who are from Central Lafourche. But this is all of Lafourche's parish for an all-star. Pretty cool. You being a Lafourche parish guy, right?
Yeah, that's where I'm from.
And might have a Neil Peart in there or
maybe so.
So anyway, congratulations to them. We actually have that picture of them that you see there. Those are all of the percussionists from Lafourche Parish, that all-star group that won the tri-state, not tri-state, I guess it would be bi-state when you consider Mississippi and Louisiana, percussion circuit championships. So congratulations to them. As we do each week whenever he has the opportunity, because he's a busy, busy man, we're going to talk to Casey a little bit about the power rankings of baseball and softball. It's huge. We're at that point where these power rankings mean a lot. They are, this is going to signify who's getting in, folks. And as a matter of fact, if you're on the outside looking in right now, it's going to be hard to gain ground. And if you're on the inside, you're probably not going to lose that much. So we're getting a little bit of a definition of who's going to be in the playoffs. Let's take a look at that now with Casey.
So happy to be joined by Casey. Of course, everybody knows Casey Gisclair in the area, as he is sort of our guy that we go to for all of our information, whether you do that through Bayou Sports, whether you Twitter, X, whatever the case may be, social media. Casey gets it out there for you. And of course, working with ESPN Plus and all the other platforms that Casey is on. We're very lucky to have him in our area and on our show as he talks a little bit about things going on. It's interesting, Casey, you're sort of coming through that transition of basketball into baseball, softball. I know you've been to track meets. I don't know how you keep up. I don't know how you do all of this. So let's ask you, how do you keep up with all of this? It's got to be sort of a grind at times, right?
100%. It's a lot at times. You going from one thing to the next. It's a lot of late nights, but it's a labor of love, man. I tell people all the time, if I weren't be doing this and I would have, a regular job, as they say, in my spare time, I would be going to sporting events anyway. So, it's a labor of love.
We are in a situation where when you come off of a sport, usually you're at the beginning of another sport. That's not quite the case with baseball and softball. We're probably, I would say, a little bit past midway. So PowerPoint rankings now mean something, right? If we would have done this, say, 3 weeks ago, it probably would have been guessing and things weren't really formulated yet. I think it's formulated now. I think actually if you're out looking in, it might be hard to get in. Would you agree with that at this point of the season?
100%. And it's a little bit of a trap because, I'm still in basketball mode, right? Like I'm thinking, hey, baseball just started, but they moved up the start to baseball by 2 weeks. So, teams have played 20 games now, man. So yeah, 100%. These numbers mean something. If you're on the outside right now, it's go time. You don't have any margin for error anymore.
So let's break it down. Let's go through each of the divisions that we have competitors in Division 1, which is 5A, but I don't want to say it's 5A because the folks at South Lafourche wouldn't be happy with me if I said it's 5A because it's not fair to those guys. But it is the biggest division related to enrollment numbers at your school. Thibodaux High right now is sitting at number 22. Only 24 make the bracket. That's another thing we could talk about a little bit is how many teams make the bracket. 24 make the bracket. Thibodaux sitting at 22. They are 12-9 at this point. South Lafourche right on the outside. I say right on the outside. They're at 29, but I think South Lafourche has an avenue to get some more wins in there. They are sitting at 14-7. A lot of people are like 14-7 doesn't get you in. Not when you play 4A classification and a district that is a 4A district trying to get into the Division 1 bracket, so it's tough for them. Central Lafourche probably out of it. They're at 32. Terrebonne is sitting at 35. H.L. Boudreaux at 38. Talk about Thibodaux and South Lafourche. What do you think about Shane Trosclair and his program, and what South Lafourche might have to do to get in?
Yeah, sure. So Thibodaux first, man, look, there's a situation where I wouldn't want to play them if I were a team sitting in the top 10 or whatever in the bracket. Thibodaux has played a treacherous schedule. They have played a 3-game series with Catholic of Baton Rouge. They've played a gauntlet schedule this year, and they have competed favorably in a lot of those games. And it's not like they're getting run rolled out there. In fact, they beat Catholic of Baton Rouge in one of the games of the 3-game series. So they're a team that if they could get in, they have enough pitching to where they could really make things interesting. For South Lafourche, they are a unique situation. They have 2 avenues to try to get in. One, they could try to earn enough power points to climb into the top 24, as you said. And then the second is tomorrow night they have a huge game with Vanderbilt. If they could beat Vanderbilt, they could maybe try to, win the district championship, which would punch them an outright bid into the bracket. So for Coach Gator and his guys, it's a situation where they have two doors that they're still tugging on, trying to get in. It's going to be tough. They understand that. But they do still have a couple of options. And look, the Tarpons are a good team too, man. Look, they beat E.D. White decisively. I think E.D. White is very strong, better than their record would indicate. And they beat them decisively on Thursday. So just an unfortunate situation where they're in Division I non-select, where, as you said, you got to win every time you play or you're not going to get in.
Well, you have a situation, too, where they have such a good win against E.D. White, but probably a bad loss against South Terrebonne, which could have helped them along the way a little bit, too. We mentioned Central Lafourche, Terrebonne, and H.L. Boudreaux. Central Lafourche is interesting in that they're not a bad baseball team. Just when you're playing in Division I, it's kind of tough. And, again, they're sitting at 9-14. Terrebonne has played, I'm going to credit Julio Archilla. He's played a killer schedule, maybe the toughest schedule in all of the state of Louisiana. And I don't know if I'd want to play them on a given day. It's kind of tough. H.L. Bourgeois is the only team that's just kind of straight out struggling at this point. Your thoughts on that our whole area as it stands with Division I?
And well, the one thing that's worth noting is that all of those Division I teams, with the exception of South Lafourche, like the traditional 5A schools, they all haven't started their district yet. So every one of those teams could sit back, even the teams on the outside, they could sit back and say, hey, if we get hot and win our district, we could punch our ticket in. And reminder, that 5A district, they only play one round. So if you could match and mix and match your ace to, face Hondo and Thibodaux and at the right times, you could maybe have a wonky, district champion who's on the outside looking in. So, but to be honest, man, it is a little bit of a grind for us locally this year in Division I. Historically, we had many teams get into the bracket. This year, we might only have one.
Yep. Thibodaux, maybe South Lafourche, it looks like, when it's all said and done. Let's move to Division II, and this is still non-select. Basically, your public schools. Lutcher in easily. We're not going to talk too much about Lutcher. The only other school that would be in if everything ended today would be South Terrebonne at number 20. 24 teams, again, get into the bracket. South Terrebonne hadn't played the hardest schedule in the world, but I guess with a 9-13 record, they played hard enough that they're getting some power points, right?
Yeah, and they're starting to figure some things out, too. Saw them on Tuesday against South Lafourche. They put a run rule win on them. Beat up on Ellender a couple days later. Then they got a doubleheader sweep on Saturday. So they've won, 3-4 games in a row now. Talking to Coach Barber, he said, look, it wasn't that we were losing early season games. It was how we were losing early season games. Lots of walks and errors and untimely mistakes. And he said, hey, if we clean some of that stuff up, we're going to be okay. They have the Braden Claymore kid who's a college arm, so they could pop him in there in any given situation. And I think they're a scary team, man. Look, in the game against South Lafourche, every one of their guys in the lineup 1 through 9 had a hit. There's not very many high school teams that could say that. So they're laying in the weeds, and we don't have to tell the story. With South Terrebonne's a program that is known for playing their best ball at the end of the season. So, yeah, I think they're a team to look out for sure.
Unfortunately, Morgan City, Ellender, and Assumption on the outside looking in. Probably biggest surprise to me in the local area is Assumption. I know they've gone through a coaching change. But did you ever think they would be 2-21?
No, not at all. That one to me, look, I actually had this moment of clarity on play-by-play last week where, Brian and I all year long, we've been saying, hey, wait on Assumption. They might. I finally said, hey, they're just not very good this year. It is what it is. I mean, they're 2-21. They're behind the 8 ball. They lose a district game to Morgan City. And I don't know what it is. Coaching change, roster turnover, I don't know. Haven't seen them with my own eyes yet this year. But, yeah, it is a huge surprise because they're usually not only in, but in with a strong seed, in with a chance to make it to Sulphur. And this year, it's been a struggle to even win a game.
Agreed. Let's go to Division II. This is select baseball, meaning that it is either private in nature or you're a magnet school, and such. Vanderbilt sitting at number 2. Actually was playing very strong this weekend, had a loss that was a little bit surprising. They're 16-6 on the year. Talk about Vanderbilt before we get to E.D. White.
Oh, well, they got James Gidger in the mound, who's a guy. I mean, he's a dude. He beat Marshall Luke this past week of Lutcher, who's an LSU signee. So, they got him. But the thing with Vanderbilt, they play really good defense. They have a great 1 through 9 defensively. They don't, they make the routine play. They don't beat themselves. And then offensively, on the flip side, they have a lineup that just puts it in play, man. That's something that Coach Menard really wants out of his guys is if there's a runner on first and there's no outs, hey, can you get down the bunt? Well, they can. If there's a guy on third with less than 2 outs, can you push that ground ball to the right side, get him in? They can. They do a lot of those little things really well. They don't have a whole lot of home run pop or anything like that. They're just an efficient offense that executes. And they are a pitching staff that is developing some depth behind James Guidry. Vanderbilt's really good, man. I think they're a team that has a really good shot to make it to Sulphur.
Agreed. I think the only other team probably in that entire bracket who is, I hate to say a threat, because obviously everybody's a threat in baseball. Baseball's baseball, right?
Yeah.
The Turlin Catholic is really good. And I'm sure if the folks at E.D. White are sitting there listening, they're saying, hold on, we didn't play yet. So they would like to have a shot at it. By the way, speaking of E.D. White, if I was to sit here and tell you, because I know you're in the know, I know you keep up with it, but put your blinders on where you're just the average person. If I told you that E.D. White was 10-13, 3 games below 500, and I asked you for the seed that they were in Division II, you would tell me around where?
I mean, I know what they are, but I would tell you answering the question like 18 or 19, something like that.
Right. They're sitting at number 9. So it's not actually a bad seed when I guess that's a little bit towards, who they played, but it's also a little bit in Division II. I think if you could get in, there's no more St. Thomas Moores in there anymore. There's no more, these juggernaut type baseball programs. So I think you have a shot. You saw E.D. White, boy, South Lafourche put it on them. What was your thoughts?
I mean, on that night, my thoughts were, man, this was not a great showing from them. They didn't play their best. Their pitching wise, they struggled. Offensively, they had some unproductive at bats. But then you go and look, and they beat some quality teams. So I mean, obviously they're better than what they showed. But man, it just goes to show, hey, look, they're 10-13. They're in the top 10 of Division II Select. South Lafourche is 14-7 or whatever. They're not even not even near the postseason in Division I non-select. So it's just crazy the way that it works, and it's not apples to apples sometimes. But for E.D. White, man, Coach Plitt and his guys, they're going to get better. The thing with them, they were a victim of the baseball season moving up 2 weeks. They had a lot of basketball dudes. They were missing a lot of key pieces. And they lost some games early in the year as a result. Now they're whole. They are starting to play better, with the exception of the South Lafourche game recently. I think that they're going to be okay. I think that they're going to comfortably be in. They're going to be at home in the opening round, and they're going to be around in that Division II select bracket.
So let's go to Division III in select. Houma Christian is sitting at number 11, 13-7. And I got to tell you, after basketball and football seasons at Houma Christian, I thought it might be a cycle of boys coming through that would, I'm not saying we're not necessarily going to be good, but it might be just like you didn't have the cycle of chemistry together, but they're actually pretty good.
Yeah, they are. They got the Percussion kid on the mound who throws well. They got some guys who could really swing it, and they are going to be a team that, again, is going to probably be at home in the opening round of the postseason if they don't earn that opening round bye. For Houma Christian, that they're going to need to sustain a little more offense. When they lose, it's like 3-1, 4-2 type of thing. If they could consistently get those 5-6 runs on the board, they're going to be okay because they do pitch it really well. But you're right. After the struggles in the fall and winter, it is a little bit surprising to see them as strong as they are. But when you listen to the people in the know, they say, hey, man, they got some kids that could really go. And from what I understand, they're actually really young on the baseball side as well.
Yep, very quiet good. Division IV, it goes without saying how good CCA is. CCA stands at 21-0. They're the number 1 team in Division IV Select. When we talked about teams like, I wouldn't want to play Terrebonne on a given night, and they're not even in the bracket, right? I wouldn't want to play South Lafourche, and they're going to have trouble getting in the bracket. I wouldn't want to necessarily play I don't know, Morgan City, who's at 25 right outside, because on a given night, if they put it all together, CCA, it doesn't matter when you play them. I mean, it's that kind of team. I haven't seen a team as dominant related to their bracket or maybe even just in general as CCA, when you can throw out the number of kids they can on the mound, and when you have the hitting that you have, not 1 through 9, when you have the hitting you have, probably 1 through 12.
It's unbelievable. I mean, they're 21-0. No one has scored more than 4 runs in a game on them this season. No one has held them to fewer than 6 runs in a game this season. I mean, they're scoring 10, 12, 15 runs a game. They're not allowing any runs. They don't walk anybody. I mean, that's non-existent. They don't commit foolish errors. You mentioned it 1 through 9. Well, Joe says on play-by-play, it's 1 through like 14 because he's got like 2 or 3 guys that could pinch hit, that could come in and start or platoon or whatever it may be. I think the thing with CCA is this. Everybody knows and understands they're the best team in Division 4 Select. Everybody knows and understands that no one would be able to beat them 2 out of 3, but their bracket isn't 2 out of 3. It's single elimination. And there are some big college arms on some of these schools that are lurking. So their biggest challenge is they got to bring it every single time because they're going into a March Madness bracket where if you lose once and you have one bad day, you're out. It's a little unfortunate. Nobody would be able to beat them 2 out of 3, but they're not going to be asked to beat them 2 out of 3. So that's their biggest thing is they're going to have to bring it every single time they take the field.
I agree. You can't slip up. Certainly in the playoffs, you can't slip up. Central Catholic going to get in. Also, did want to mention that they're at number 19. They are sitting 1 game under 500. But again, CCA has something special going on. So let's backtrack just a little bit. Thibodaux would be in Division 1. In Division 2 non-select, Lutcher obviously would be in. South Terrebonne sitting there. They'd be in now, but they got to keep it up. 24 go in that. Then you go down to Division 2 select, Vanderbilt and E.D. White both safely in. Division 3, Homer Christian safely in. Division 4, CCA obviously very safely in. And we hope some of our other teams sort of put it together. The only problem is if some of our other teams put it together, it's at the detriment of another team, because we're all playing each other now as we've sort of gotten into more of a district slate, even though district doesn't mean what it used to mean along the way. In softball, we have in Division 1, non-select, just a shout out, I'm sure from you as from me, I'm not speaking for you, I'll let you speak for yourself. But Hornville sitting at number 6, and, I've always been friends with Jeremy DePlanta. So it's kind of nice to see Jeremy kind of carrying on, doing well. And look, he played a dynamite schedule, and he's 17-6.
100%. And mentioning that, they did play Vanderbilt this weekend, and I saw his old girls gave him one pretty good. So I know that was probably a little emotional for him. But yeah, they're 17-6 and they're playing at a high level and super happy for him. A great guy, deserves nothing but the best. And look, don't be surprised if he's, hoisting a trophy someday over there at Hornville. He's that type of guy, that type of coach. He's going to have success wherever it is that he is.
And I know you have had the opportunity to see it. I was going to ask if you had, but I know you have. Did you like his facilities? Wow.
Yeah. Hornville University, man.
Yeah, they play him on artificial turf with the big H on it and everything, and it's pristine. It's very nice along the way. Central Lafourche having a good year. They're sitting at number 16 this year. Kudos to Coach Zarang and what she's done with that program. Thibodaux is sitting at 12-7. So Coach Ockman doing a good job there too. So those two teams would be in. Here's what's interesting. In Division 1 non-select softball, 26 make the bracket. In Division 1 baseball, non-select, 24 make the bracket. So you can't even compare girls to guys when it gets to brackets. I'm not blaming the LHSAA. That's not it. It just when they divide by 4 and they put all the teams together, there are more girls teams. I guess the best way to state it is there's more girl high schools in Louisiana than there are all boy high schools. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, you say, does that make sense? The answer's still no, but.
Well, I'm thinking of Mount Carmel and Dominican and all of these all-girls schools, and I tried to think of an all-boys school the other day, and you do have a lot because you think of Brother Martin and Catholic of Baton Rouge, and I think St. Paul's is still all guys. Mm-hmm. So, but it's different. I got to tell you. I mean, I have seen brother and sister who have played at the same high school, one in baseball, one in softball, and the softball one got in, and the baseball one was like turned to his sister and said, yes, because y'all get more teams in your bracket. So it's a little weird, right?
It is a little weird. And it is going to be interesting to see how that could, maybe benefit some of our Bayou region teams. You mentioned that a second ago, Thibodaux and Central Lafourche, man, they could swing it. They're scoring a bunch of runs, winning a bunch of games. Kudos to them. They're having an awesome start. Hopefully they could hang on, and it looks like they're both pretty comfortably in right now. So yeah, it would be nice to see some Bayou region talent pushing into that softball bracket.
So teams that we know are out, unfortunately, at 37, Terrebonne, 38, HL Bourgeois, 39, South Lafourche. So I don't think we're going to see those teams in. When you go to Division II, in Division II, a team that I think is going to compete for a state championship, and it might be a little bit of surprise, is Assumption. Assumption's girls are really good. They're 18-3. They lost to Vanderbilt by a run. So I think they'll be competitive. South Terrebonne would be in at number 16, but they're a couple of games under 500. They're 6-8. Ellender actually would be in. They're 4-7. So when you talk about some inequities, big word, I think there might be, it's a little bit different when you're talking about softball. 26 teams get into that bracket. I don't know how much softball you have seen to this point, but it does seem like Assumption's got a shot at it all.
Yep, and Assumption has some pitching, and that's what you need. Whenever we're doing the Terrebonne General Scoreboard Report, and then we get to the Assumption score, it's always like 4-1, 4-2, and that's a good softball score. It's when you get to the games that are 17-15, and those are the ones like, okay, those teams might be kind of lacking a little bit, but Assumption has pitching. They have a lineup that could score some runs, and they have played a very challenging schedule. I like you. I think they do have a chance to make it to the state tournament at the end of the season. They're playing at a very high level. They're battle tested. And yeah, man, I think that you mentioned it just a second ago. You lose by just a run to Vanderbilt. Yeah, you're pretty doggone good.
And you have Division II, where Vanderbilt is the number one team in the state of Louisiana, 16-2, headed for another at least shot at a state championship, a very competitive shot at a state championship. I just like to say, teaching some of the dads of some of the girls at Vanderbilt. I went play in the Vanderbilt tournament last year. I'm not trying to throw a jab at you, Casey, when I said that, but I went play golf in that tournament. And at most of the holes, the dads came out to talk to me, and I'm so happy. Scott Baudouin's daughter there is a terrific pitcher. She committed to Nichols. She's only a junior. And as committed to, Lauren Baudouin. So I hope that they do well. But another team that lost to Vanderbilt by only a run was E.D. White's Lady Cardinals, and they're pretty good too. They're 11-7. They're seated at number 6. So I think there's very few teams that are going to compete with Vanderbilt for this, but E.D. White might be one of them.
Yeah, E.D. White for sure, man. They've done it already. They nearly got the win in that matchup a couple days ago. The thing with Vanderbilt, they have so many hitters in that lineup that could change the game with one swing of a bat. I mean, every time I'm logging on to social media, the Rutledge kid's hitting another home run, or Baudouin's getting a big double, they got so many kids that with one swing could really flip the game on its side, and it's hard to hold them all down. E.D. White did a good job of holding most of them down for most of the game. But then you realize, okay, well, we got to face Baudouin in the circle, and we're not going to score a whole lot. So that's kind of the conundrum that you face is almost like CCA, Bayou on the baseball side. They could score a ton, but they're not going to give up a ton. For E.D. White, they have to be a little more consistent pitching and defense. They could hit it too. They've got some players who could hit it out the park. But they've got to be a little more consistent on the pitching and defense side. And if they could do that, they're going to be at that elite level, and they're going to be a team that no one's going to want to face in the playoffs.
Agree. In Division III, my trophy for best coaching job, just because, I think she's special. Christy Crowder does a great job. She is just humble and tries to do the right thing. She lost a starting pitcher who is an all-stater who left and went out to the Lafayette area. She lost girls that are now winning Conference Players of the Week everywhere around the country from Homer Christian last year. She is one game below 500, but she's also number 10 in Division III, and that's Christy Crowder and the Homer Christian Lady Warriors.
Look, I liken this to LSU after the 2019 football season. You know, there's no Burrow, there's no Chase, there's no Jefferson, there's no Edwards-Helaire. That's Homer Christian this year, man. They lost so many big guns to the next level. They have as you mentioned, the pitcher transfers out to go to Southside, and they're still finding a way. I mean, with a bunch of younger girls, less experienced girls, they're still finding a way. And, 7-8 record, it doesn't look all that good. But when you read between the tea leaves, they have played 5A, 4A schools. Like, they have not backed away at all. You're right. Coach Crowder does an outstanding job there with those young ladies. Anything that they would get postseason wise in terms of success this year would be like playing with house money, man, because no one, in the area is expecting them to make another run. But then, boom, lo and behold, they're in the top 10 again, and they just very well may make another run.
I agree. Division 4, two teams that are sort of middle of the pack, Central Catholic and CCA, both flirting around 500, but they're going to both be in. So
yeah, they're going to both get in. They're going to both have their shot. Central Catholic, again in the middle, CCA, fighting for that home spot right now, fighting to stay in that top 16. Shout out to Bella Trosclair on CCA. She's getting, college offers and hitting home runs and everything like that. So we talk about the twins on the baseball side. Well, little sister ain't too bad either, man. And in fact, the parents often joke, little sister has more scholarship offers than the twins do right now. So yeah, they got some good players there. They're playing at a high level. They're trying to get that home playoff game right now and punch that ticket.
Yep, and their dad, Ryan, the twins and Bella's dad, Ryan, had often mentioned, wait till you see my daughter, because we're always talking about the twins, but they're all obviously really good athletes. Their mom was a LeBlanc, and the LeBlanc family at HL Boudreaux were terrific athletes too.
Yeah.
So good pedigree there. So as we look back at softball, Central Lafourche and Thibodaux would be in. Assumption, South Terrebonne, and maybe Allender. Allender sitting on the bubble in softball. Vanderbilt and E.D. White safely in. Homer Christian sitting at number 10, 24 go in, so they're probably safely in. Central Catholic and CCA probably safely in. CCA sitting at 17. So that's kind of a look, and we'll keep up with them along the way. I know it's hard for you to tell us, ahead of time throughout the week because it's day by day sometimes, but what's your schedule like?
If the weather holds up today, which as I say it right now, it's raining, South Lafourche and HL Bourgeois today, baseball-wise, in gray. Tomorrow, Vanderbilt and South Lafourche. Wednesday, I'm going to try to find a game in the area that's not Tarpon-related. But you're right, it's just kind of day by day, especially with the weather and everything like that. But we are going to have a bunch of baseball, and I'm going to try to get some softball this week in there as well. So, yeah, we're going to keep everybody posted, and we're going to make sure that we bring all the latest and greatest to everybody on Bayou Sports.
Again, go to Bayou Sports, folks. I do it every night to go and check out the scoreboards to see how all of the teams in the area have done, but in general to see what Casey and Abby are putting out there. By the way, her daughter doing really well, I saw.
She's a beast, man. Look, it's amazing. A fifth grader who's right now number 1 in the state in triple jump for middle school kids, a fifth grader. Yeah, CCA's got a good one, man.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Thank you for your time, Casey.
100%, dude.
All right, take care.
You too.
As always, a big thanks to Casey for all he does for us here on our podcast. If you want to find out more about baseball and softball on a daily basis, go to Bayou Sports. You could find that on Facebook. You could find it on X, I think they call it now. In my day, it was Twitter. But Casey is a social media guru. He gets all of the stuff out there. And we certainly hope that you follow these teams as they make their way to the playoffs. Track and field, hot and heavy, had 2 big meets this past weekend that sort of encapsulated all of our Bayou region teams. The first one that didn't have very many Bayou region teams, but it's a very prestigious relays is over in Baton Rouge. It's the Pete Boudreaux Relays, which is a relays that is hosted by Catholic of Baton Rouge. Pete Boudreaux, a legendary coach there. And those 2 teams we had there were E.D. White and Central Lafourche. E.D. White's boys and girls both finished in second place. Central Lafourche didn't have near as much luck. They were there, and they finished in the boys division at number 11 and in the girls division at number 8. A good meet, but not near the numbers that you had over at the Gator Relays in Berg this past weekend. I mentioned last week, Coach Francis Labatt, Coach Steve Barber are back, and those two guys put on the best meets we've ever had in this area. And they did it again with the Gator Relays. 20 boys teams, 20 girls teams participated in the Gator Relays. That's a lot of high school kids, folks. And considering that South Terrebonne just went through Ida, they started getting things back together. They did have the Gator Relays last year, but it was a shell of itself, so to speak. This year, it was huge with a lot of really good teams. I have the docket here of everybody in there. You had obviously local teams like Allender and H.L. Bourgeois and Homer Christian and South Lafourche, Thibodaux, Terrebonne, but you also had like West Jeff in there. You had Sophie B. Wright in there. You had Grand Isle would send a couple athletes. Kind of interesting. Destrehan, always a power in every sport. They were there. Ben Franklin was there. McMain was there. So a very good meet. And to run down the finals in that one related to the team results in the women's rankings, the girls, it was Ben Franklin besting the field. They had 94 points. In second place was H.L. Bourgeois' Lady Braves. They got 77 points. Vanderbilt Catholic was third at 71 points. South Lafourche had 68 points. Rounding out the rest of the field real quickly, Thibodaux, Sophie B. Wright, Berwick, Central Catholic, Terrebonne, and South Terrebonne was 10, and then there were 10 teams that came after that. We won't get into all of those teams. But again, a very big field and very good results in the men's rankings. You had Thibodaux who won it all. Thibodaux's got a really good track team this year. They score 137 points. Destrehan scores 84. So those are the two big schools, obviously, the 5A schools. South Lafourche comes in third with 70 points. Vanderbilt Catholic at 55 points. Berwick in fifth at 44.5 points. And then rounding out the top 10, Allender, Morgan City, Ben Franklin, H.L. Bourgeois, and Terrebonne. So again, congratulations to South Terrebonne High for hosting a terrific meet, the Gator Relays, down in Berg this past week. There were a couple of specialists who finished with very good marks in this meet, and we'd be remiss not to mention them going into the state meet in May. This is going to pay off big dividends for these young athletes. Jalen Coleman, who we know is signed to play football at Liberty University, won both the 100 and the 200 going away. So congratulations to Jalen and Jalen, and then in the discus you had Addison Grizafi from Central Catholic. She set a meet record at 132 feet in the discus. And in the shot put, Ava Borda, who is having a terrific track season, threw the shot 39 feet 7 inches. She, of course, is from South Lafourche, so she's setting standards every week as she moves on towards the state meet. In the pole vault, want to make sure that we pass on that Reese Prevost of Thibodaux High jumped 14 feet. There was a time where 12 feet, 12.6 was really good for the men. Not anymore. The boys are at 14, 15 feet and upwards. So Reese Prevost of Thibodaux High School, 14 feet in the pole vault there at the Gator Relays, which is certainly a very good standard. That's going to wrap it up for us. We talked baseball, we talked softball, we talked a little bit soccer. Remember when we talked a little bit about Lola Downer going on to the next level. We even got into a little bit of the music. Related to instrumental music with the percussion section from Central Lafourche. So we're trying to make sure that we cover all of those kids in our local area. Again, subscribe, like, we drop every Monday. If you need a way to get all of this, give us a call. We'll be happy to make sure that we get you the information on how you can easily get our podcast each week. Best ways, obviously, are Spotify and YouTube. Again, that's it for us. Thanks to Casey. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. Take care, and we'll be back next Monday.